Here we are on the workbench again. Now it's time to put together all of the little parts, and this is probably one of the hardest, or at least the most time-consuming steps. So I've got enough for 2 platforms done here. I've got all of the parts taken off the sprue, and I've got all of the excess plastic and the flash cleaned up off of them. But before I assembled them, I wanted to show you one thing that you need to do that's not anywhere in the directions. So if you look at these filler pipes, they come up in 2 different pieces. You have to put this tiny little piece onto this. However, it doesn't fit, because if you put it on there like it is, I don't know if you can see that little stem on the filler, but if you put it on there like it is, it won't sit flush and the holes won't line up. And I'll try to show you this. It's hard just to hold it together since the pieces are so small. But the pieces sit offset. So what you have to do is you have to take your X-Acto knife, and you want to be real careful when you do this. You want to trim off the end of this little filler piece. Just about, not more than a 1/16 of an inch, if that much. It just doesn't take much. So I just try to trim it a little bit with my X-Acto knife here. I think that's about got it. Like I said, a 1/16 at the most. You don't need much, but you got to take some off. So once I've taken that off, I'll just give it a little file just to make sure it's smoothed out and square. There we go. Now I can glue this piece on. I'm going to put a couple drops of glue there on each side and set the piece on there. It's kind of hard to do if you got big fingers in the way. So I just want to take a look at it now and make sure that it's lined up on both sides so I have a perfect circle. Or as perfect as you can get it. So there. So now you can see it's got to be all the way through, and that's how it should look. Takes just a little bit of fussing with it, but it does line it up properly now. Okay, so that's putting one of these together. So I'll put the rest together off camera. So let me show you the next step. The next step is to glue these handles onto the distribution pipes that come up. We've seen the distribution pipes that are already on the bottom of the platform. These are the extension of those. So the tiny little handles can be pushed on to these little pins that stick out here. And it's not easy, necessarily. So I'm going to take one and I hold it in my needle nose pliers just so the ring part sticks out. And then you got to push them in between. So these are the valve handles that I imagine allows the oil to flow. Now you can, because they are so stiff, you can just leave them and not glue them, but especially if you wanted to move them up and down. But I can't imagine me ever wanting to do that with those tiny little handles. So I am going to glue them once I get all three of them on. As you can see, this is a delicate operation. That's why I say this is probably the hardest, if not the most tedious of all of the assembly. Sometimes you got to take that. I can just get it on there and then I'll take the tip of my file and push it all the way down. There. And the last one's not so hard because there's nothing to put it in between, so. There. So I'm just going to take my glue and put a drop on the handle. If I can quit shaking a little bit. Sometimes that happens when you're doing this tedious work like this. Okay. Clean out some of that glue. It attracted itself. There. Okay. So you'll notice of these pieces there's a long one and a short one that goes on each side. Now when you do the two short ones or the two long ones, they're going to be facing each other this way. So if you want to put the handles on the inside of both of them. So that means the handles have to face this way on this one. So you just want to make sure you do that. And I'll do this one more. And the same thing for the long set. They're going to be facing each other as well, and so you'll want to do it. You want to do that for the long set. And of course, once I start gluing these onto the platforms, you'll see how it looks. You got to be careful with these because they're very delicate. I have had to buy an extra kit because I have broken and lost little pieces. I broke some of these handles. And then I've dropped some. So I ended up having to buy an extra kit just to take care of the ones that I've dropped. Now I guess it doesn't really matter if you accidentally glue the handles in the wrong direction, because if they stick to the outside, I guess that's possible as well. I'm just trying to be consistent for the sake of what I'm doing. And I'm doing mine to the inside. Okay. So like I said, here's the long one, and you do the same thing for the long pair. You'll have, for each platform, you'll have a pair of short ones and a pair of long ones. So the next step after you get the handles glued on are these pipe joiners. I don't know if you can see them good in the frame there. So these go on the bottom of each of these. So I'm going to use my tube glue for that. And once I've got a set on the bottom of each of these pipes, and this is where they'll join the distribution pipes that are on the platforms. So you can see there's an indentation here where the pipes on the platforms will glue into these. So just to make sure they're straight, I take them and push them down on a flat surface like this, making sure the pipes are a 90-degree angle to the pipe joiners, or whatever they're called. Hold them there for about 20 seconds, and that'll give a good seal to the glue. And there we go. So there's one complete set of the handles and the pipes with the joiners on there. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do all the rest of my sets. So you can see this might take a little bit of time, but as soon as I do that, we'll be back to add them to the platform assemblies.